here to discuss the president's comments and reaction to the overall threat of ISIS, the fallout from that curious comment by the president, and to talk about American participation with ISIS. We are pleased to welcome once again General Michael Hayden, the retired Air Force general, the former head of both the CIA and the National Security Agency, currently a principal at the Chertoff Group. General, welcome back to America's Forum.
Thank you very much.
You have seen your share of comments from presidents past. Have you ever heard this kind of admission from a president of the United States dealing with armed conflict?
Well, I guess we'll begin with good marks for candor. But, you know, if the president were still on the links, I think that would have been a statement in which he would have said, I'm going to take a mulligan on this one and then go back to the bag and hit another ball. Whatever it was he thought he was saying, it's certainly being read by, I think, observant folks like you and me and people around the world, that we're a bit here lethargic, perhaps, and unsure, and frankly, not as alarmed as the situation might seem to indicate we should be. None of those are good. None of those are good signs.
General, in the past, presidents have used strategic ambiguity, refusing to spell out what the United States might do, but this is the first time I can ever recollect an expressed absence of strategy.
No, you're right. I've not seen that before. And, you know, we in the past have habituated ourselves with all options are on the table, which, by the way, the president didn't see fit to say yesterday. And in this case, I don't think you can make an argument that strategic ambiguity is our friend. Strategic ambiguity is what's allowing these guys to continue their expansion with what appears to be some degree of confidence. We need to disambiguate the situation here and make it very clear to them that their actions are inevitably, ultimately, with certainty, going to have consequences.
Well, Mike, why don't you disambiguate your analysis of ISIS? Just what is the nature of the threat?
Large organization. It seems as if recruiting is going just well. It is continuing to expand. The old numbers that I've seen are easy to remember, so I keep them in my head, but they may be lowballing it a bit now. 10,000 hardcore fighters overall, 1,000 of those from the West, at least 100 of those from North America, which then suggests, in addition to being unarguably a local threat, I think we can now say unarguably a regional threat. It has global ambitions, and now is beginning to get the personnel and the means to strike at the West and the United States globally.
And General, ISIS is letting everybody know about it in terms of the psychological warfare they are waging through social media. Of course, last week, the horrible video of the beheading of James Foley. Now reports indicate Mr. Foley was tortured and waterboarded during captivity before he met that grisly end. ISIS also showing a second hostage in a video. The fate of that hostage as of now is unknown, but there is other video we have of the fate of others. ISIS parading 150 Syrian soldiers in a march. Some have taken to calling it the March of Doom. We have the video up right now because here go the 150 Syrian soldiers before ISIS apparently killed them all. General, do you believe those reports? And what about this? What about this public display of brutality?
I have no reason at all to disbelieve the reports. It is absolutely consistent with their past behavior. And look, you and I look upon this and say, this can't be to their benefit, showing this kind of thing to a global audience. But obviously, they think it is, and to perhaps a very small subset of the world's population, that's a sign of strength and power, and that they are what Osama bin Laden used to call the strong horse. and therefore they attract this subsection of wow, how do you want to describe it? Disenfranchised, disillusioned humanity to their cause.
General, according to other estimates from the intelligence field, at least 300 American fighters in Syria. That doubles from the beginning of the year. You cited the mark of 100 earlier.
Right.
Whatever the count is, the New York Times is reporting today that we are starting to identify those Americans fighting for ISIS and others who are in Syria. Knowing who they are, having an idea of who they are, I guess is a good thing, but are we going to be able to stop those jihadists from coming home to commit jihad on American soil?
Yeah, one hopes. But look, I've got to point out, we are never going to have a perfectly complete list. There will be Americans and Westerners or people who do not need American visas to enter the United States, fighting in Syria, learning from ISIS, being motivated and trained by ISIS, who will come back to the United States without showing up on our network. And that's the point I continue, look, it's just not me, a lot of folks like me continue to make. Okay, ramp up the defenses, learn who these people are to the best of our ability, batten down the hatches, so to speak, man the barricades so that they can't come in. But that is an imperfect effort. There will be others, and that's why it's so imperative that our response to this is just not better defenses. Our response to this is, well, frankly, that the kinds of things that the president used to say about Al-Qaeda Prime. We're going to dismember and defeat this organization so that it is not capable of attacking us in the homeland.
About a minute remains, Mike, and we're both old football players and football fans. The saying was, the best defense is a good, effective offense.
Right.
Do you believe we can mount that kind of effective offense? But in the 45 seconds remaining, how long is it going to take the president to get a strategy in gear and start to implement it?
One hopes when he goes to Europe, one hopes when Secretary Kerry makes that round amongst our Arab friends that the president directed yesterday, that they get an earful of, let's go, guys, we've got to move, and you're the only one in a position to lead. One hopes they get that message, and then secondly, that they listen to that message.
General Michael Hayden, we appreciate your analysis, your insights as always, and we thank you for your time so much.
Thank you.
And as always, for in-depth forecasting and analysis on ISIS in Syria, please go to lignet.com. So, we just talked about ISIS overseas and Americans there, but we really need to explore more the question, what needs to be done to protect Americans from Americans turned jihadists if the bad guys should try to come back home? Congressman Peter King serves on the House Homeland Security Committee. At one point, he was the chairman of that committee, and coming up, he will offer his thoughts on the best way to protect the homeland in view of this new threat. And Peter just got back home. He's back from Israel, so he can speak with some authority and some experience based on what was transpiring there in Israel and now his projected notion of just how effective the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas will turn out to be. So Peter King will have that analysis for us coming up. But in the meantime, what are your thoughts on ISIS and Americans fighting for that Islamo-fascist terror organization? Why don't you tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum. You can also use newsmaxtv.com/comment. And don't forget Facebook, where you reach us at facebook.com/Newsmax. America's Forum will continue after this time out.